Right, first up, Gilgamesh by Emily H. Wilson, book 2 of the Sumerians trilogy, and I'll read you some of the blurb. Now is the time for the gods of war. Gilgamesh, soon to be crowned king of Uruk, travels north to find his homelands in flames and his family on the run. A blood-red moon brings warnings of a new kind of war, and in the far north, the enemies of Sumer are massing. Inanna and Ninshubbar sail south to take their revenge upon Enki, the king of the water gods. Armed with the master Me and struggling to understand its true nature, Inanna will face impossible demons in her quest to fully comprehend the power she has inherited. Meanwhile, Ereshkigal, the queen of the underworld, has a mysterious visitor. This dark stranger brings with him the threat of dangers far more terrible than Enki or even Sumer's warlike neighbours. Because a long time ago, in a realm far away, a little girl was taken from her family. Now, a vengeance long prophesied is about to unfold. As the forces of chaos rise across the riverlands, Gilgamesh must battle against overwhelming odds to save the city he loves. And the Anunnaki will soon discover that no one can escape the sins of the past, not even the gods. Right, bit of history on this. I went to Worldcon last August and had a really good time. Got a day ticket, and when I was planning it, I was looking at all the events and, so many different things. And I couldn't pick one for the first event to go to. And then I saw that there was a book launch event by, I think it was 6 authors, including Emily Wilson. And I thought, well, I've just read the Odyssey and I've got Emily Wilson's Iliad. She's the only author here that I know from the 6, but it's something. So I'll go and meet her. That would be great. So I did, or so I thought. No, turns out I didn't. So I suppose it's quite interesting that both of these books are going to show up in my May reads. Emily Wilson, Emily H. Wilson. See the difference? One's got an H, one hasn't. They're not the same person. So I turned up the book launch, sat down with Emily H. Wilson and said, "Hi, I've just read your Odyssey translation." And she's like, yes, I get that a lot. I was quite embarrassed. So Emily H. Wilson had just released this, the second book in the trilogy. The first book is called Inanna. And I thought, well, I'm going to have to buy her books now, aren't I? She didn't have them for sale at the event, which I found a bit weird. And I would have bought them off her there and then and got them signed. But she didn't have them, and so I didn't get them signed. But I did go straight to Waterstones and I bought both books without really knowing much about it. Now, interestingly, in my humanities read-along that I was planning to do with Ted Gioia, I fell off it when we got to Gilgamesh, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, rather, the actual epic upon which these books are based. And I didn't continue with it, and I'm not sure if I will. But I did read Inanna and I did read Gilgamesh. I read Inanna last year. I'll put a wee link to it and you can go and look at the review for that. I really enjoyed it, especially the audiobook, which is narrated by Zara Jane Nakvi. And she's great. Her voices really suit this book here. It's broken up, as is Inanna, into multiple point of view characters. Chapters are short, which is a bonus. I always like short chapters because it means I can pick it up and read a chapter in bed without worrying about how long it is and falling asleep halfway through. And it carries on from the first one. Gilgamesh, is he the main character in this? I would say not, really. The first one's called Inanna, and I think in that book she's the main character. So she's the goddess of war, really, is who she is. It's a coming-of-age story about Inanna learning who she is and growing up. Gilgamesh is in it, and he does loads of stuff. And in this one again, he does loads of stuff. Does he do more than the other characters? Not really, no. It's about the same. And the next book in the trilogy, which comes out in August, is called Ninshubar. I think Ninshubar's probably my favourite character. I think I said that in my Anana review as well. She's like a bodyguard. A Sukal is the word. Sukkal. She's a Sukal to Inanna. And she grows in power through different means, which is, it's really well done. She's a great character. And in this book, we get Ereshkigal playing a bigger role. Ereshkigal is Inanna's sister. She's queen of the underworld. And we get a lot of stuff about the underworld in this book. It's based on the Epic of Gilgamesh loosely. And it has strong fantasy elements. There's a magic system. There's magic weapons called Mies, which you'll have heard me read out on the back here, armed with the Master Me. It's M-E-E and it's in italics. These are weapons that are in the shape of bracelets, bangles, that kind of thing. And they're worn, well, as bracelets are on the wrists and arms. And they have different powers, and those who wield them don't necessarily know what they do. So that's kind of the story. I don't want to give much away because it's difficult to talk about the plot without spoiling it, so I don't want to do that. What I will say is that I think this, having got used to the style and the characters through the first book, I found this to be more engaging and enjoyable. And that's not to say that it necessarily was. It's probably just because it's the second book and I know all the characters. Or maybe it was a bit more engaging actually. I did tandem read some of it. So AirPods in, book in hand. That's one of my favourite ways to read. But I did listen to the audiobook quite a lot and didn't find that I was spacing and zoning and missing bits, which is a good thing because that's been happening quite a bit of late. So I was really pleased about that. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I haven't reviewed it online. I think I'm giving it 4 stars. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 4-star book. Not quite 5, but it stays in my head. And it's, I say 4.5. Aren't star ratings rubbish? They're not the best way of doing it. It's possibly a 4.5 then, let's go with that. So, yeah, having discussed Emily H. Wilson, let's go into Emily Wilson, translation of the Iliad by Homer. Now, last year I read Troy, Stephen Fry. Really enjoyed it. Went on to watch the movie version with Brad Pitt, which was, not great. Then I started watching a TV show, which I did enjoy, but I stopped after 3 episodes, I think. Might go back to it, don't know. So I'm well versed in the story, I really enjoy the story. And I read the Odyssey last year as well. So Stephen Fry's Odyssey and The Odyssey, the translation by Emily Wilson. And I'll just say that the Iliad I've been following along with Matthew Long from Beyond the Bookshelf. He's been putting out weekly posts from, when did he start? February, something like that. Quite a slow read. And he's been putting out excellent chapter analysis of this. But somehow I found myself not enjoying it at all. Matthew's analysis helped. I enjoyed his analysis, so then I didn't really feel that I needed to read the chapters, which I know is daft, and I did read them. And when I read them, I was like, yep. It's all just fighting, and I understand the prose, the poetry is really what it's about. I loved the Odyssey, so why did I not love this? I don't know, I just didn't engage with it. And that has to be okay. I feel bad about it because I know it's one of the epics of all time. And no, I just didn't get on with it. What I'll say is the book, decal edges, beautiful print, and her translation is exquisite. I know that because I tried listening to the audiobook that's available on Spotify, which claims to be the Emily Wilson version, but it isn't. It's nothing like it. And that was dreadful. So I ended up getting the Emily Wilson translation from Audible. And that was how I finished it, because I was struggling to sit down with the text. And I was almost about to DNF it. I thought, no, I won't DNF it, I'll finish it on Audible. So that's what I did. I think perhaps it's just something I need to come back to at a different stage in my life. I don't know what's going on. As I say, I know it's one of the epics of all time. And I know people whose tastes I respect, who love this book and read it over and over, annually in some cases. I think one of my creator friends, Russell, who runs an excellent Substack called Solvitur Ambulando, I know it's one of his favourites, and I respect his tastes. So it's got me wondering, what's going on, Camille? Why are you not digging this book? But I didn't, so I gave it 2 stars and moved on. So that's where we are with Emily H. and Emily not H. Right, the next one I read is not physical. It's just an audiobook, and it's called Overreach by Owen Matthews. I heard Owen Matthews on a podcast called Planet Normal. He was discussing the Ukraine-Russia conflict, and he discussed it well. I thought, this guy knows what he's talking about. And so I looked him up, and sure enough, he's got a book out called Overreach, which is basically a history of Russia and Ukraine, and then goes right up to 2022 and the conflict. It's called Overreach because Matthews is of the opinion that Putin has overreached in what he's doing in Crimea and in Ukraine. And it was a fascinating read / listen. Did I get the audio? It's just the audiobook, actually, of that one. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think Matthew's history is spot on. I've read a lot of Russian / Soviet history. I've read biographies of Putin. I didn't know much about Zelensky, so that was really interesting. And it's one that I think I would like to get a physical copy of for the shelf, because it was just so jam-packed with information that I could have done with taking notes, you know what I mean? I didn't, because a lot of the time I was driving and stuff and dog walking. Taking notes on audiobooks is hard. So I will possibly get a physical copy and flick through it again, because it was a fantastic book. Highly recommend it. And when I was putting it into my Notion database, I discovered that the author was already in there. It's like, oh, turns out I had a book of his on the shelf called Stalin's Children. So as soon as I finished Overreach, I took it down off the shelf, and I'm hoping to be reviewing that quite soon. I'm about halfway through. It's not looking like it's going to show up for May for the breakdown, for the wrap-up. It's probably going to be June, but you never know. Tomorrow's Saturday. I'm recording this on Friday, obviously. Let me just grab the book, I'll show you it. Here we are, Stalin's Children. It's a biography of his family, and it turns out Owen Matthews, he's a Russian speaker. His mother was Russian. She was one of Stalin's children. So she escaped after her father was purged in 1937, and we follow the story of her and her sister, how they escape, and then I've got to the bit now where we're talking about his father, who's an English diplomat who worked for the Moscow Times. That's where I've got to so far, and I'll tell you more about that when I finish the book, but it's absolutely fascinating. I'm loving this, and I've looked him up online. He's written some historical fiction as well, or is it like spy novels based in Russia? So yeah, I'm basically going to end up getting all of his books, aren't I? So that's been my May. It's been a slow month. I haven't really read as much as I have done in other months. But no, I've been reading a hell of a lot, actually. What am I talking about? Brothers Karamazov, Oblomov, Anna Karenina. These are all long projects that have been taking up a lot of my time because I'm making a lot of content. You might have noticed, if you're on my channel, there's been a lot of Oblomov content coming out because I'm trying to read it in 2 months, over May and June. Just got to the end of May and I've just got to the end of part 2 of a 4-part book. So I'm on track. Doing all right. And I'm loving it. The slow read, the note-taking with my fountain pens, making my videos. I'm having the best time with Oblomov. It's one of my favourite books, and this is the most in-depth reading that I've done of it, and it's so rewarding. So if you fancy reading it with me, now we're halfway through, so you got some catching up to do. So yeah, it's possibly a bit late to join. How many pages in are we? 327, so I don't know. But it's evergreen content. You can read it anytime you want, and my content will still be available. So, you know, it doesn't matter if you're behind. I was behind last year when I found Simon Hazel when he was doing War and Peace. But I did catch up because War and Peace was a very slow read over a year, and it was a chapter a day, and Tolstoy's chapters are short. So, yeah, it was easy enough to catch up. Took me a couple of months, I think. But yeah, so I have been reading a lot. It's just I haven't finished a lot, which means I don't get to do a big, long wrap-up. But, you know, I'm having fun with it. I'm having the best fun probably I've ever had with books right now. And that's largely down to starting this channel. So, yeah, thanks to everyone for the inspiration and for following along as I grow on this channel and have a good time with all my books. See you later.